Hello, it is me, the Doodle King. This is the speed art for my Smiling Friends fan cartoon. I'm going to be showing how I did this. This video is actually a shorter version of the full video, which is out on my Patreon. Sometime soon, I'm going to make a video on Patreon showing off how I've done rotoscope in the past. So if you're interested in that, or seeing the full version of this video, which is almost twice as long, then please consider following me on Patreon. I started working on this cartoon in June 2022, but I didn't really get any progress done until 2024, when Season 2 was coming out. Originally, I was planning on releasing it before Season 2 came out, but then I failed to finish it in time. Then I was going to release it before Season 2 ended, and again, I didn't finish it in time. So I decided to shelve it until the next season came out, which, lucky for me, it wasn't that long. It was only a year later. So while editing this time-lapse, I don't know how I did this. Somehow I accidentally deleted a bunch of footage from the start of working on this cartoon. All of my 2022 footage working on this cartoon is gone. I can't find it. There's even some stuff from 2023 and a bit from the start of 2024 that is missing. That's why the beginning of this video just kind of abruptly starts. It doesn't seem like it's the start of me animating this cartoon. It seems like I've already begun. That is why that is that way. It has been so long since I've actually seen how I made the first couple 10-15 seconds at the beginning, but good lord, it was so hard. I'm looking at every time I have to redraw Smormu, and it's just bringing me back to how difficult it was. I remember how hard it was to draw that character, not to draw all of them, because going into this cartoon, I knew I wanted to try to emulate the style of Smiling Friends, and I did not realize how hard that would be. It was so difficult. Normally my characters that I animate don't move this much. I don't have to redraw them this often. Normally my characters are a bit more stagnant, and whenever they move, I'll usually reuse frames and just rotate them and stretch them to sort of give off the illusion of movement, so I don't actually have to redraw them as often. And I'll recycle the same mouth movements, and it's really easy. Smiling Friends is totally different. The characters move a lot, and they always have tiny little gestures, and their faces are completely changing. It makes it so much more difficult to animate, but also it makes them way more expressive and interesting, so there is a trade-off there, right? That being said, it was pretty difficult to do this completely by myself. Smiling Friends has the benefit of having a whole team of people. Like people that'll do the storyboards, then a big animation team, then people that'll do the backgrounds, people that will do cleanup. I am just one person who had to do all of this, and it was exhausting. That being said, the end result I'm very proud of. I'm pretty happy with it turned out. There's very few parts of this cartoon where I feel like I half-assed it, or I didn't push myself as far as I could have, or I didn't bring 110%. Everything I'm happy with. Like, each frame I just think is pretty much perfect. There is one part that I feel like I could have done better, and I will bring that up later whenever it finally appears. Here's an example of what I mean by the animation being difficult. When Charlie gets upset and he's mocking something, I literally had to bring his hands up and have him move back and forth and have his lip sync up with that moving back and forth. I'll explain it a bit more in a second, but it was just so much moving parts just for a little bit of character, but I do think it really added to it. Here I'm showing my ultra detailed animation of Charlie squinting his eyes to show he's getting frustrated with what Smormu is saying. Again, that's a really small detail, but I feel like it just adds a little bit of character. This is way more effort than what I would normally put into a cartoon that I would make for YouTube. I would put in way less effort. The characters would be a lot more static and sort of cheaply drawn just because that's what I'm used to. This was a nice experiment and breaking from the norm of what I do. And I hope that this will change how I animate in the future. I remember finding those really big eyes very funny looking. I was trying to decide if it was off model when I designed it like that, but sometimes the show does things like that, where Charlie suddenly has, you can see the whites in his eyes despite normally never seeing any whites. And it's usually when he's in pain or really angry or something, so it seemed fitting for this moment, for his, you would be able to see the whites of his eyes. So right here, this is one of the few things I wish I had done differently. I decided that when Charlie slams his hand on the desk, that to give it sort of a smear frame, I would have multiple hands in one frame. I've done that in my own animations multiple times, and I think it looks fine. It wasn't until the whole thing was finished that I realized they don't do that, really, in Smiling Friends smear frames, at least like that. They never really do that. And I realize now it doesn't really fit the style I was doing. That's something I wish I would have gone back and fixed. And I was considering going back and fixing it, but I decided it wasn't really worth it. It was like, it was probably something I cared about more than anyone watching the video, so was it worth however long it would take to redraw all those frames or just fix it? It did not seem worth it, so I just didn't bother. This is kind of unrelated to what's going on right here, but Smormu's eyes are so annoying because they had the texture inside of them. And I did it way earlier in the cartoon, you already saw it, but to get those eyes to constantly have the same shape, I already had drawn Smormu's scribbly, weird-looking eyes and just would copy and paste them. You may notice, like, I have a lot of copy-pasted elements. Like, I've already drawn out the character's torso and most of their head, and I'm going to reuse that later. That is one of the shortcuts I used to make this much faster, so I didn't have to completely redraw everything, which would have made it, 1, take longer to animate, and 2, I feel like I very quickly would have gotten off model and would have to redraw over and over to fix how things looked, and that just would have been a nightmare. So that's why I did stuff like how you see Smormu, but it's just his eyes and part of his head's outline that is used every time he moves his head. And whenever I need a new mouth shape, I'll use that for reference. So here's me actually drawing the background, which is the office. That might actually be what the title of this video is, I haven't decided yet. I put off doing this for a very, very long time because I knew it would be an extremely detailed background that would take a lot of effort to complete. Throughout the process, I found a lot of shortcuts that I will be explaining really soon, but just know, I hated doing this. It was so much detail, it was nuts. Something I just did there, you might have seen that, is I copied the floor tiles and just flipped it. That way I didn't have to draw the entire floor, because that would have just been so unbelievably tedious. If I recall correctly, I did something similar with the bricks. Yep, there it is, right there. There you go. There's me copying a bunch of brick textures so it wouldn't take so long to draw it. It's crazy. I did end up filling it with a bunch of random Easter eggs, which I thought would be funny. And I'm pretty happy with those. Like here, I'm putting in a crystal skull. That's sort of a personal reference to something I find funny. No one else that I know finds that funny or interesting at all. It's just me. But yeah, I just filled this room with loads and loads of references, some of which people in the comments noticed. like, it's coming up in a second here. There was when I was a kid, there was this spy tank camera thing that I had as a kid that I really liked. Here it is right here. Here's the spy tank camera, whatever you want to call it. Somebody in the comments mentioned that they recognized that, and they had it when they were a kid as well. So I'm glad somebody got that reference. I thought that was going to be so obscure that nobody would get it, and I'm glad that people did. God, the ceiling and the walls, they just have all these little like scratches and dents and textures, and same with the bricks. Just, it had so much little detail, and I put off doing it for so long. I actually recorded this. This was filmed after the next part, which is about we made people laugh / smile. That's how long I held off working on it. I should mention that thing I just said about the next part about making people laugh / smile. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can't see that part. That's only in the extended cut. And right here, as you can see, there's a gremlin in the microwave. That is a Gremlins reference. I don't think you can actually see that gremlin in the animation. I think Charlie covers it up, so it's a stupid reference that you can't see. But yeah, that's there. So that's as much as I'm going to show on YouTube. If you would like to see more of this speed art, please consider following me on Patreon. It's almost twice as long as this video. Again, sometime soon I'm going to be making a video showing off how I've done rotoscope in the past. That is something to look forward to on my Patreon, as well as any other new video from my channel. It'll be there early. So please consider following me there. Until next time, bye!